My faith in the Constitution is whole. It is complete. It is total. And I am not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the diminution, the subversion, the destruction of the Constitution. I'm Jessica Denson, host of Lights On with Jessica Denson, and that was from the inimitable Barbara Jordan, the first African-American elected to the Texas Senate after Reconstruction. We are facing a situation where a man who is constitutionally disqualified is about to be given the oath of office. Is there any issue more important than confronting the constitutional crisis that we have in this moment and stopping this illegal presidency? I don't think there is. I'm covering this issue relentlessly. I covered it very much on my live show last Friday, and I spoke about an excellent piece called King Trump is Not Inevitable. It's written by Kaitlin Byrd, a contributor to the Huffington Post and the Boston Globe, among others. I'm very happy to be joined by Kaitlin to discuss her excellent reporting for Dame Magazine. Kaitlin, welcome to Lights On.
Well, glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Jessica.
My pleasure. My pleasure. As I mentioned last week on my live show, I spoke extensively about both your article and recent scholarship from William Bowden and Michael Paulson, who were the two conservative legal scholars who really jump-started the conversation about Section 3 of the 14th Amendment and why Donald Trump remains disqualified after the abysmal ruling in Trump v. Anderson. But before we kind of just get into it, give me your thoughts off the top on where we stand with this.
The Constitution is fundamentally a popular compact. It is a promise that the people of the United States have made with the officials that are created by it. And it is up to us at this point to have those officials acknowledge their responsibilities to the Constitution.
Now, you wrote in your piece about how after the Civil War, amnesty bills were brought up in Congress in keeping with the 14th Amendment, Section 3, even after individuals had been elected. So these were not mutually exclusive events, and how you believe that Democratic senators still having control of that body should initiate an amnesty bill. Because, as you clearly brought out, Donald Trump remains disqualified right now. So why not bring up an amnesty bill and see if 2/3 of both houses will not remove the disqualification? Can you explain that a little bit more and why you think this is what Democrats could and should be doing right now?
Yeah, actually. So one of the things that I did in going through this piece and researching it was going back through Trump v. Anderson. And the justices in the majority, but the specific main concurrence, the per curiam by the conservative justices, says in it explicitly that Congress can use their power under Section 3 whenever they want. They even say, I think the words are no limits on the use of Congress's power. And they, in the footnotes, they bring up an amnesty act that was made for a specific person so they could serve in Congress. When they did that, I looked at it and I was like, we still have the authority right now vested in Congress to bring up an amnesty act and basically just assume the disability rather than necessarily creating a disability and imposing it and then having to create amnesty for it. And I think that's the actual, the part that's most powerful about it, is that the justices themselves created that loophole because they're legal scholars and not legislators. So they didn't think all the way through the implications of Trump v. Anderson. The Senate can absolutely take this up. What it would do is that basically once it's acknowledged, I believe that at that point it becomes very difficult to then try to argue or get out of the situation. It basically creates a catch-22.
Absolutely. It really puts people on the spot. And I don't know about you, Kaitlin, but I have zero tolerance right now for the shit show of Trump nominees and everything about trying to mitigate an illegal presidency when there seems to be zero fight and interest in stopping it. before it starts, when we all know how much damage it's going to cause, how this is a man who has already spoken very openly about wanting to terminate the Constitution, and his first act will be a blatant violation of the Constitution. I haven't seen an interest, at least since the election, from lawmakers in bringing forward a Section 3 bill in the Senate or any kind of discussion whatsoever about Section 3. However, Representative Jaime Raskin had some very interesting comments on this. I want to play that clip.
Put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress. So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in civil war conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means.
What is your reaction to that, Kaitlin?
I mean, first, we love Jaime Raskin. As Rep. Raskin points out, this is actually, Congress is the first place in the Constitution. It is designed to be the power center of the federal government. And it's up to our representatives. I know that there's very little fight right now, but it's up to them to actually step up and do this work. That it's terrifying, though, and I can understand why a lot of them are trying to figure out other options, but history waits for no one.
It absolutely doesn't. And you talk about this in your piece about, first of all, you talk about how it doesn't have to wait until January 6th. Your idea of an amnesty bill could start today.
Yes.
It could start today. And I actually think that dealing with it, there is so much fear out there, Kaitlin, there's so much fear of the consequences of doing the right thing instead of fear of the consequences of not doing the right thing. And the eventual chaos of a Trump presidency is going to be so exponentially worse than any temporary, momentary chaos we have to deal with right now. We have to do the hard work. Is it messy? Is it uncomfortable? Damn right it is, but we've got to get down and do it now. Can you kind of explain that chaos, that momentary chaos that you talk about in your piece?
Well, I mean, first of all, it would be wildly chaotic in many ways, right? First, we've had an election. This is not going to rerun that election. This is what it is, right? But once he has been removed, basically once he's no longer qualified to hold office, there's a huge set of questions. For example, president-elects don't technically have specific powers, and therefore there's no actual requirement that the vice president-elect is selected in their stead should they be disabled or unfortunately removed from office, right? Like unable to discharge the duties of becoming president. There's technically no official way that the vice president-elect becomes president. So that's one layer of the chaos, right? We don't actually know who would succeed. Once the Electoral College votes next week, we then move into a different phase, which is it would most likely be Vance, but then there's other questions as to whether or not his electoral votes will even count on January 6th. If the Senate takes up the bill after that, that creates its own layer of chaos. And then there's just the very obvious, which is elected officials don't generally like trying to, I don't like to say nullify, but undermine the outcomes of elections, which is what they're really afraid of, which is why they're being so compliant, which is, okay, he won the election, in quotes. And so you have
covered that extensively, our failure to do due diligence into this election. So you don't have to have any fear about discussing that here.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it's okay to be skeptical of like, wow, that was so quick, exactly the way he would have wanted it. So
him and Vladimir Putin, right?
Precisely. But you see that, and a lot of Democratic officials are afraid. And it's because you don't know what will happen if they say this guy is actually not qualified to, is he going to foment something? Obviously, the next thing is that there is a process by which he can get authority to take office. And the way it needs to be packaged and the way you need to step forward is Donald Trump can absolutely take the oath of office on January 20th if he lobbies Congress, Democratic members of Congress, that he will be responsive to Congress as an institution and that he has expressed remorse and repudiation of his actions on January 6th, 2021. But I think it will be a cold day in hell before Donald Trump apologizes for anything he's ever done, let alone January 6th.
That's I think what all of us understand. And that's why it seems highly unlikely that you would actually get to that 2/3 majority that's required to remove the current disqualification that is ascribed to him. I think,
follow
go ahead.
Up really quick,
Yeah.
Which is like, when that happens, the first thing that needs to be said is this man does not respect the Constitution. Like,
Yes.
there is a combination of things, right? It's like, if he does the right thing, we'll be willing to do the right thing. But if he immediately responds by saying, kill lawmakers, I think we've established that this is exactly the behavior that we are here to punish. This is why he's not allowed to take power again. And if you don't package those two things together, then yeah, it does become chaotic in a way that becomes very obvious. And I think that's one of the problems that Democrats have had broadly, not just in the Trump era, but in speaking about why he's so problematic. They kind of assume it's done on its face. You need to be very clear to people. It's like, there is acceptable behavior and there's unacceptable behavior. And I think overwhelmingly, you've seen that voters, when they actually are given January 6th directly, do not like it, did not approve of it, have repudiated it over and over again. It just wasn't a focus of this campaign. And so if you make it a focus for a month before the anniversary of January 6th, do you get a different response from the people when they say, well, why can't you just give them an apology? Why can't you do that instead of talking about killing people?
Yeah. Well, Kaitlin, I want to touch on a couple things you said. First of all, you said the fear of Democrats to do this because the result of the election, the result is that apparently he won, or at least decidedly by all of those in with a bully pulpit right now. But the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was written to overrule majoritarian decisions. It was written to even nullify decisions of the populace to put somebody in power as a safeguard, as a backstop. I mean, I discussed this issue at length with constitutional scholars, with the lawyers at Crew who brought that case up through the Colorado Supreme Court, with Professor Tribe, with so many people who understand this is a safeguard. This is, we don't compromise on this. It's there even in the case that somebody is elected. But also, to the point of all the chaos that these lawmakers are fearing, first of all bets are off, as you've hinted to, as to what comes in a Trump presidency. The Democrats right now, I think, are totally blind. And so there's kind of this total disconnect with the disillusionment of their own base. I'm not talking about MAGA. I'm talking about the pro-democracy Democratic base, who is like, where the hell is the fight in you people? Where are you? You have been warning us for years about the danger of this man. And now you seem to be either lying down or telling us, oh yeah, we're going to fight it and mitigate it when it happens and he takes power. Where is the fight right now? Do they not realize that if they took up this mantle, got into this messy but necessary work, how many people would be rallying around them? How many people are waiting for an action like this to get behind and save democracy on our watch in our lifetimes?
Frankly, a majority of us really just want somebody who can throw a punch. I think I'm tired as a member of the Democratic base. I've been a Democrat. I did my first door-to-door at 3, canvassing at 3. My parents were involved in politics when I was a kid. Before I was born, I've never not been a Democrat. And I'm so tired of having my elected officials explain to me what they can't do. I don't hear that from Republicans. Oh, we can't pass that bill because we don't have blah, blah, blah. They never say that. They're always talking about we're going to stop the people who are getting in our way. And I think that this is one of those times where Donald Trump has made very clear, not just during the election, but in the way he has run his transition, that he is not going to be bound by law. He's not going to be bound by the Constitution. He's not being bound by election law. He's not going to be bound by anyone. And anyone who thinks that Republican senators or representatives are going to do anything at all to even provide a speed bump to whatever he wants. You know, they're making noises right now about like, okay, maybe we don't, we don't allow RFK Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard, who's straight up an asset. Or,
the Patel FBI,
Pete Hesketh or Kash Patel. Maybe these people get stopped, but the ones right behind them, just like Matt Gaetz got stopped, but Pam Bondi isn't going to be stopped, and she's equally corrupt.
She's a hatchet for hire. Horrible, absolutely.
She's awful. And the fact is that everyone who's serving in a future Trump administration, all of them also believe that the Constitution is dead letter. They don't respect it. They will not have any boundaries. They will serve at the behest of King Trump. That is what Inauguration Day is. It is a coronation. So we either have to take that seriously as a country and specifically Democrats as a party, or we're going to find ourselves subjected the same way our political ancestors were when they said that, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal.
Kaitlin, we have to take action right now. So I share your frustration, but I don't want to sit dormant here. I want us to do something about it. I want to take action on what your article suggests and maybe get our viewers today to reach out to their senators. I want to give them a phone number where they can call Congress, call the switchboard in Congress, ask for your senator. It's 202-224-3121. I've been putting out this, I've been like beating this drum relentlessly on Blue Sky, by the way. Are you on Blue Sky, Kaitlin?
I am. I'm about with another 46,000 people.
Okay, all right.
On my account.
All right, are you Gotham Girl Blue on Blue Sky?
I am.
All right, let's get Kaitlin some more followers on Blue Sky. But I've been beating the drum relentlessly there. We'll continue to do it on this show. And when I've suggested to reach out to senators, people have mentioned John Tester, Sherrod Brown, Bob Casey. They're all retiring. Their terms are ending. It would be a great legacy act for any of these senators to bring it up. Hey, add Mitt Romney to the mix. What an act of heroism and patriotism it would be for him.
So I want to be very specific. You should absolutely reach out to your senators, 100%. Yeah. But once you've reached out to your state senator, consider reaching out to one of the 4 Democrats who are on the subcommittee, the Senate Judiciary Committee's subcommittee on the Constitution. This is almost certainly where such a bill would get started if it were going to be drafted. And those 4 Democrats are LaFonza Butler of California, Cory Booker of New Jersey, Richard Blumenthal, of Connecticut, and John Ossoff of Georgia. Go contact them. Continue to batter at their offices. They're the subcommittee on the Constitution in the Senate. That's where 100%, if you're talking about a Section 3 disqualification, a bill would almost certainly start there. And getting that language drafted is not hard. I mean, you can actually go and look up the amnesty acts that not only passed, but also failed in the Senate, in the House, and you can see the language they used. It's not difficult to do. I have no special powers. I just have a person with an internet connection and a knowledge of the Library of Congress. You can do it. And when that comes up, there's no reason that a senator's staff is incapable of doing the exact same searches that I am, and they probably have more resources. It's not too hard to get the language in.
It's really not. And I will just reiterate this point again. As hard as it may seem now, it pales in comparison to how friggin' hard it's going to be to live under a lawless dictator Trump. So do the work now. All right, so we're going to make those calls. I will also put the link in the description of this video to how to contact Congress, and you can find those specific senators on that committee there. Again, the number to call the switchboard is 202-224-3121. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kaitlin. I appreciate it so much. Where, other than Blue Sky, can people follow you and your work?
Everything, everywhere, Gotham Girl Blue. I have a Patreon. I have a website. I write at Dame Magazine every month. I've been saying a lot of things about Trump and the nature of the Constitution for a long time over there. And yeah, my bylines keep popping up in different places. So those are the big places.
All right. Well, I was very happy to discover you, and you've been doing this since age 3, so you know something about what you're doing. Thank you so much, Kaitlin, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica.
My pleasure. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today on Lights On. Please take that action. Please call and write your senators. Do it now. They have it in their power to stop this madness, to uphold our Constitution, and not let democracy die on our watch. You can always find Lights On by subscribing to the Jessica Denson YouTube channel. So please do that now. And also please share this video. I'm completely an independent broadcaster at the moment. So the way this gets out is by you liking and sharing, subscribing, and getting the word out. Thank you so much for doing that. If you want to support my work, you can do it at thejessicadenson.com. Thank you so much. As always, let your light shine.